Howdy, Legendary Void here, and today I have another deck tech for y'all. I was giving some thought about a deck that one of my good friends actually has been working on for a long time. It's actually a white deck where you try and use white pips to the best of your ability. So of course there's going to be a lot of them in this deck. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the characters for it. Starting off, there's going to be Autobot Jazz, which is actually the character that kind of made me want to do this because when he defends against an enemy that doesn't have Pierce and he flipped 2 white pips, he can't take more than 2 damage, meaning that if that triggers every time, he'll have to take at least 5 hits before he gets KO'd. But he does have 0 defense, so if they do have Pierce, he's going to be taking all of the damage even if it is just 1 Pierce. So he's not that great of an attacker with only 3 attack, and you're probably never going to be flipping him to his bot mode unless you really do need that Pierce too, because he's mainly going to be the one that you're going to be wanting him to get hit, because you're pretty much going to be hitting the double whites every single time you defend. Plus he's a leader car melee, so we are going to be doing some car stuff, as well as there are a few leader cards that we are going to be trying to take advantage of. The next character we're playing is Autobot Mirage. He's a 412-2 in his alt mode at 9 stars. He's a car melee, and whenever you flip to his alt mode, you get to play an action, which is really nice, getting to play an extra action on top of something like, say, Start Your Engines, because you'll automatically have to flip him to car mode. And then his bot mode is really what we're looking at here, though. It's a ranged 512-2, and whenever this attacks for the first time each turn and you flip 3 white pips, you get to untap it, which is absolutely insane, especially when we have as many whites in the deck as we do. 5 attacks, nothing to scoff at either, but we're mainly going to be trying to abuse a lot of cards with Mirage's untap ability. So, and the last character we're playing is Private Smokescreen. He's a 411-1 in his alt mode. He's a car ranged, and he has Safeguard 3, meaning that he's not half bad as an initial attacker, because he can't take more than 3 as soon as he does, because as long as he's undamaged, Safeguard 3 makes him unable to take more than 3 damage while he doesn't have any. So in his bot mode, though, he's a 411-1 with Focus 1, which is kind of nice, being able to move any white pips out of the way so you can get to the orange pips that are in the deck. But he also has an ability saying that whenever he has a white upgrade on him, then he gets +1 attack and +1 defense, making him a 511-2, which isn't even half bad, and considering how many white upgrades we have in this deck, it's a really good card to have. So here's our character lineup. They're all cars, so of course we're going to be trying to abuse some stuff with that. As well as also trying to just do as much damage as we can while being able to defend with Jazz and Smokescreen. So starting off with the actions, we have 3 copies of Wedge Formation. This lets you remove repair damage from one of your melee if you have a ranged character draw a card, and then if you have a specialist on the battlefield, plan 1. We don't have any specialists in this list, but we do have ranged and melee, so we get to abuse those. Plus it is a Pierce that you can add on to your attack, guaranteed, since it is an orange and a black. Basically guarantees that you'll be getting that Pierce no matter what. Plus it's a green pip card, so if you really do need to heal 1 or draw 1, you can pull it to your hand after a battle. So we're playing 3 of those mainly because it is a guaranteed Pierce, and that's really decent in this sort of deck. We're also playing 3 copies of Start Your Engines. Flip each character from bot mode to car mode, and then untap one of your cars. Since we're playing all cars, this was kind of a staple almost in this deck, because we get to untap, and it doesn't even really matter that it's a blue, because as much as I was saying there was orange earlier, it is sort of a mixed deck. We have a good amount of both orange and blue. I think I have more white than anything though, so of course we're going to be playing Start Your Engines, because it lets us get more attacks in while we're piercing still, so it's not half a bad card. And we also have 3 copies of Surprise Attack. One of your characters gets Pierce 3 until the end of turn. This is especially nice on Mirage, because he gets to attack, he has Pierce 3, and if he untaps and gets to attack again, then he still has Pierce 3 until the end of the turn, meaning that he'll be at least doing 6 damage if he doesn't flip anything on the attack, or just do anything beyond what their defense allows. But Surprise Attack is pretty good for Mirage in this sort of deck. Plus it's white pip, so it helps in that regard. And we do have 3 extra stars because Mirage is 9, Jazz is 6, making it 15, and Smokescreen is 7, making it 22. So we do have 3 stars. We're playing 3 copies of Leap of Faith. This one was kind of I don't want to say it's obvious, but it seemed like a really good choice since it is a white pip, and then you basically get to play 2 more cards off the top of your deck after that. And I did take out some of the unnecessary cards, I'll say, like Peace Through Tyranny from the deck, so you're not really going to be flipping those off the leap of faith. However, there are improvised shields, but that's not even that bad either, considering that you can just put it onto Jazz, and then it makes it more likely that he will flip the 2 whites, so it's not even bad in that regard. Plus, again, I did have a few blues in this deck, so Tough One is going to help at least make it more likely that you'll flip those few blues in the deck. But yeah, that's all the regular actions. I know there's not that many, but we do have one set of secret actions, which is Step Forward. It's another blue pip card, and once your opponent has chosen an attacker and before they choose a defender, you basically get to give one of your Autobots Brave. Mainly this is going to be on Jazz, but if your smokescreen is still undamaged, you can definitely have them swing into him. But because you're giving Brave to one of your characters, you're definitely going to be protecting Mirage, who is probably going to be your main attacker in these sorts of decks. So giving Brave to one of your Autobots is definitely a very nice card to have, and we are playing all 3 just so that we can ensure that we do this at least somewhat consistently. Next, for weapons, we're playing 2 copies of Piercing Blaster. This gives Pierce 3 to one of your characters when you put it on. It is a white pip, so it helps there, as well as also guaranteeing that you're going to be doing 3 damage no matter who you're swinging with, so it's very nice there. We're also playing 2 copies of Sturdy Javelin. I was initially running 3, but I took one out because I figured there were other upgrades I'd rather have, plus not all of them are ranged, which is usually what the Sturdy Javelin is going to be used for. So it only gives them +2 attack, which isn't that great considering they don't have very high base attacks already. So Sturdy Javelin is 2 of, just so you can ping 2 damage wherever you want to, whenever you're attacking with a ranged character. But it is a white pip there as well, and we're also playing 3 copies of Anticipation Engines. Now this card is it's kind of what helps run the deck almost, because you're going to be able to untap so many times with this sort of card, because you get to reveal the top card of your deck when the upgraded character attacks, and if it's an action, you can play it. Now, this works in conjunction with another card in the deck that allows you to put a card on top. So if you attack, you flip a Starshire Engines, for instance, and boom, you just get to attack again, because you're immediately untapped if your opponent's fully tapped. So of course you're going to be able to just get another attack in, and assuming you do have the Pierce from, say, Surprise Attack, you're going to be dealing more damage than you would otherwise. So it's pretty nice. Plus the white pip helps in the regard of untapping Mirage, flipping for Jazz's defense, and perhaps even just putting it on Smokescreen to get that +1/+1. Now for the final weapon, we do have 3 copies of Grenade Launcher. This is for whenever you're able to get large amounts of attack. For example, you have an improvised shield in your hand and you can put it on top of your deck with, say, a data pad. You can just put this on top, say with Mirage, giving a base 9, and then 11 with the improvised shield you're putting on top. So +4, plus it gets scrapped at the end of turn isn't really that bad. The orange pip helps when you're attacking. But yeah, that's all of our weapons. Let's go ahead and get into the armors and utilities. So for the armors, we're playing 3 copies of Improvised Shield. Again, it gives you Tough One, so it helps a little bit with Jazz's defensive flips, preventing him from taking any more than 2 damage. And the orange pip, the double orange pip helps you whenever you're attacking. So if you can time that right with, say, Data Pad, then it's definitely worth it. And we are playing 3 copies of Force Field. It is a white pip card, so there you go, helping more towards Mirage and Jazz, as well as also preventing one of your characters from taking any more than 4 damage from an attack that is coming at them. And since we don't have too many armors in the deck, Force Field seemed about right for us to play, as opposed to something like, say, Medic's Protective Shield. Since it only repairs 1 damage, people like Mirage aren't going to care that much if they have like 4. So Force Field is more of a surefire way of making sure that you're actually going to be prevented a certain amount of damage. The Medic's Protective Shield, at least in my opinion. I know some people prefer it over Force Field, but I prefer Force Field over Medic's Protective Shield. And lastly, for the utilities, we are going to be playing 2 copies of Data Pad. This works in conjunction with Anticipation Engines, since it lets you draw a card whenever you attack and then put a card from your hand on top of your deck. You can put an action there that you wanted to play during your turn, but you couldn't because you had to play a different action, and then you just get to play it with Anticipation Engines, letting you untap characters or just play secret actions such as Step Forward. So it's very nice, all things considered, since it is a white pip as well. We're also playing one copy of Acute Reflexes. This gives you focus 1 and then +1/+1 if you flip a white pip in battle, which is extremely likely in this sort of deck. But it's basically an addition to be putting onto Smokescreen. Since he already is going to be getting a +1/+1 for having the white upgrade, if you flip a white pip on the attack, then he's going to get another +1/+1, making him a 6/11/3, which is extremely strong. Plus he gets the focus 2 at that point, meaning that he's going to be able to filter through 2 cards out the deck, getting rid of anything that he doesn't want to see. So very strong in that regard. Plus you don't even have to play it just on Smokescreen, it can go on anyone else. Say Mirage if you just need him to do a little bit more damage. But yeah, we're also playing 3 copies of Turbo Boosters, put on cards only, and it untaps them. It gives +1 attack as well, so it's not that bad in that regard. Plus your opponent typically won't want to remove these, as they'll immediately get shuffled back into the deck for you to just play again, so they'll typically keep them on. But it's a nice card, giving you another untap, way of untapping, so it's very strong in that regard. Plus it's an orange pip, leaning more towards the aggressive side of the deck. And we are playing one copy of Pocket Processor. At the start of your turn, you get to draw a card. We are only playing one of these since it is a green pip. And plus, you'll probably want to be putting on early game since we have so many utilities. You'll want to replace it later in the game once you've had your time to fully set up and get a big enough hand. So Pocket Processor is just a one-of in the deck. But we are also playing 2 copies of Matrix of Leadership. Since Jazz is the only leader in the deck, you're going to get to abuse that on him. It gives +1 and Pierce 1 to each of the other characters on the field, so if you can play that onto him, it puts you in a really nice position there. Plus it gives +1 attack to him, so we might actually be doing some amount of damage to your opponent. Who knows? You know, Jazz is kind of a weird character, you know. If you're playing against Pierce, he's just kind of screwed, you know, because he doesn't have any way of dealing with that. I think what they said in the rules roundup is even if you have the card that reduces Pierce by 2, if it goes to 0, I think it's still considered Pierce 0. So Jazz will still take the damage. I'm not really sure about that one. I'll have to reread that, but I'm pretty sure I remember that's what I saw. So that kind of sucks, but Jazz is a really fun character to use if you can pull it off consistently. It just frustrates your opponent. I would know. My friend who has this deck, he plays it all the time, and it's so frustrating because I'm not able to get through Jazz with my aggressive decks, and I end up only doing 2 after playing like a supercharged grenade launcher. And it's just really frustrating, especially when Jazz is the only character left. You're forced to basically hope that you either flip a Pierce card or you just doesn't actually flip the 2 white pips, which does happen occasionally. The white's not the complete majority. There are a good amount of whites. I don't think I've counted yet, but there are a decent amount, and however, it's still not likely, but it's still possible for you to not flip 2 white pips on a defense flip. So. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash like, put all your suggestions for this deck in the description below. I really do enjoy this deck. It's actually a blast to play against. Even playing against it is just like so. It's ridiculous, but it gives you and your opponent a good amount of laughs. It's pretty fun. I wouldn't say it's quite a troll deck because it does work, surprisingly. So who knows? Maybe this will actually be somewhat decent after some of the cards from Wave 5 come out. But again, put your suggestions in the comments below. And of course, as always, have a phenomenal day. Peace.